Hello there, you awakening wonders. Thanks for joining me today for Stay Free with Russell Brand. As you can see, I'm still celebrating Ash Wednesday like the lunatic that I am. In a minute, we're going to be talking to the founder of the Hallow app about spiritual principles, the compromises that come when you make money out of tech. But before that, let's talk about what's going on in Canada, as well as talking about Europe rearming itself. Could we be on the brink of Armageddon? And how do you possibly respond to a situation like that? Whether you're watching us on X or YouTube, ultimately, please join us over on Rumble and consider getting Rumble Premium so that you can support me and Rumble's fantastic lineup directly, as well as getting a friction-free experience over there. Is it possible that Justin Trudeau could get any more out of step with the sentiments of the American people? He's threatening to not come to America. He's threatening to withdraw his finest Canadians. Now, that includes some pretty interesting Canadians. Jim Carrey, are we going to lose that guy? And Chris Pavlovski, CEO of Rumble, has responded. He himself is a Canadian person. Is Canada about to become the 51st state, joining maybe Greenland? Maybe it'll have to be the 52nd. Or is Canada going to form a bulwark of opposition against United States hegemony? Let's get into it.
We're going to choose to not go on vacation in Florida or Old Orchard Beach or wherever.
About getting Florida, me, Tate, everyone's already here. Last thing we need is a Canadian.
We're going to choose to try to buy Canadian products and forego bourbon and other classic American products. And yeah, we're probably going to keep booing the American anthem.
Yeah, we're going to boo you. I will boo you right in your anthem. Get ready. We're talking about potential nuclear war in Ukraine. Trudeau evoked the Emergency Act during the height of the pandemic. Chrystia Freeland, his likely replacement, froze people's bank accounts. And while they salute a Nazi, I can't get over the saluting a Nazi. But now things are getting serious. Putin, we will boo you straight in your anthem. Trump, get ready. Your anthem's not beneath a good booing. And Keir Starmer, we will boo you so hard in your anthem, you'll need to go immediately for an AIDS test. I put a pippin down my waddler hole, and it turns out that everything's tickety-boom.
The American anthem.
Ron DeSantis of Florida seems to be responding directly to Trudeau's claim. Does America need Canada? Is the division between Canada and America arbitrary? Will Trump's bellicose style and vulgarity lead to world union in a previously inconceivable way? Myself, I believe in national sovereignty and maximum individual freedom. Let's see where this is going.
Flock to our state and investment to Florida surge. We continue to set tourism records. 2024 saw more than 142 million visitors come to the state of Florida. This includes 3.3 million visitors from Canada. That's not much of a boycott in my book. Maybe they wanted to get a glimpse of what a Stanley Cup winning hockey team actually looks like.
Yeah, you boo our anthem and we'll mock your hockey. We'll get you riding the hockey. It's really interesting, isn't it, how the symbols of a nation become open to ridicule in this ongoing discourse that does have political connotations. This whole controversy is, of course, spawned by Trump's imposition of tariffs on Canada and Mexico. That could purportedly happen any day now. Let's have a look at Ontario Premier Doug Ford cancelling Starlink. That guy's going for it. He's the one that said, I will fight to the death. Not actual death. No one will actually die. It's kind of empty rhetoric that people are trying to move beyond.
Also, starting today, all U.S.-based companies will be banned from taking part in government procurement. Every year, the province and its agencies spend about $30 billion on procurement.
You can forget about that procurement, and we will boo you so hard in the anthem that you won't sit down for a week. Bunker. When you need to be safe online, you require a bunker. You must notice that billionaires everywhere have their own bunker. Why shouldn't you have Bunker to protect your online life? Bunker has been a great sponsor for the show. They're having tremendous growth, and I want to tell you about them today. High net worth families, law enforcement agents, professional athletes, and tactical response trainers trust Bunker to protect their lives from surveillance, cyber criminals, and other threats. Bunker is an uncompromised private messenger, together with a password manager, secure vault, and notes that work seamlessly together. It offers you private messaging and sharing. Send messages and leverage Bunker sharing capabilities for passwords, documents, notes, photos, and videos. There's also a password manager. Safeguard your online accounts for finance, banking, travel, shopping, and others. Secure Vault. Keep your important documents at your fingertips, such as identification, health records, travel documents, insurance cards, and your most cherished photos and memories. You pervert. Create notes for to-do lists, travel, business, private reflections, recipes, workouts, and health information. In over 130 countries, Bunker customers enjoy peace of mind, travel with greater ease, and have more energy to focus on what matters most. Bunker, give it a try. Keep yourself safe online like billionaires do down their bunkers. Download Bunker now from the App Store, Play Store, or visit their website bunker.com. Use the offer code BRAND to get 25% off. Live life to the full and protect what matters most. Download Bunker today.
Alongside our more than $200 billion plan to build infrastructure. U.S.-based businesses will now lose out on tens of billions of dollars in revenues.
You can forget about maple syrup and Mountie hats too. Well, I've got my own Mountie hat. I don't need you, as a matter of fact. Here's Chris Pavlovski, CEO of Rumble, a Canadian company, responding. Canada is going to be in a world of hurt. I would not hold Canadian dollars and I wouldn't buy Canadian real estate. It's of my opinion that we're about to witness one of the largest declines in Canadian history, driven by incompetent leadership in Canada. Please explain to Governor Trudeau of Canada that when he puts on a retaliatory tariff on the US, our reciprocal tariff will immediately increase by a like amount. So, in a sense, you can't rely on those somewhat impotent former woke-style WEF leaders to stand up against the belligerence and potency of a leader like Trump, who, in spite of what The View may think, has a significant mandate. Here's Justin Trudeau directly messaging Trump in a manner that can only be described as, in a way, if your fuel bills are high in Canada, you can just watch Trump doing this and warm yourself with pure cringe.
Now I want to speak directly to one specific American, Donald.
I don't mean Duck, because I actually don't even believe Donald Duck's real. Who talks like that, all that stuff. I'm talking to you, Trump, as an equal. I'm speaking to you, Fidel Castro, as a father. I'm joking.
In the over 8 years you and I have worked together, we've done big things.
I haven't, though, have they? What big things have they done? Is there anything as big, as memorable or significant as the evoking of the Emergency Act in the pandemic to control truckers, Canadian citizens protesting against their government, all the while telling them that they're the Nazis? You are the Nazis. That is why we have to control you. You are the Nazis. That's why we have to freeze your bank accounts. You are the Nazis. That's why we are saluting an actual Nazi in our parliament. Wait a minute. This doesn't make sense.
We signed a historic deal that has created record jobs and growth in both of our countries. We've done big things together on the world stage.
They're not the Bee Gees. Stop making everything sound gay.
As Canada and the US have done together for decades, for generations. And now we should be working together to ensure even greater prosperity for North Americans in a very uncertain and challenging world. Now, it's not in my habit to agree with the Wall Street Journal, but Donald, they point out that even though you're a very smart guy, this is a very dumb thing to do. We two friends fighting is exactly what our opponents around the world want to see.
Can't actually adopt that perspective or that position against Donald Trump when you're Justin Trudeau, when you've behaved the way that he has behaved in government, and when we're beginning to experience the success of some of the audacity of Trump's public rhetoric. Zelensky now says he's ready for peace. Even with the extraordinary AI images of Gaza as a holiday destination, it appears that there's a likelihood that solutions that were previously inaccessible might become an option, even for someone who finds it somewhat distasteful to speak about a region so connected to and fraught with controversy, pain, and suffering spoken of in such a glib way. You have to acknowledge that Trump is the political figure that Americans have voted for and appears in some extraordinary ways to be the political leader that the world needs. And whether you agree with that or not, you surely understand that Justin Trudeau isn't the political figure that the world needs. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments and the chat, wherever you are watching us. You might be watching us on X. You might be watching us on YouTube. Please join us on Rumble. Sign up to Rumble Premium. It impacts me positively when you do that. You get an ad-free experience when you do. But until then, here's a message from one of our partners. Senolytics are the biggest discovery for promoting healthy aging. The aging process obviously isn't our friend, unless I suppose, there's eternal life. But while we're here, we want to be energetic and productive. That's why I use Qualia Senolytic with science-backed ingredients that have helped me feel, I would say, 15 years younger in a matter of just months. Everyone accumulates senescent cells, known as zombie cells. These senescent cells are old and worn out and not fulfilling a useful function for our health, but they take up space and nutrients from our healthy cells. Qualia Senolytic removes zombie cells and allow healthy cells to thrive. Resist aging at the cellular level. Try Qualia Senolytic. Go to QUALIA.com/brand for up to, get this, 50% off, and use the code BRAND at the checkout for an additional 15% off. Try it now. Qualia Senolytic is also available at select GNC locations near you. Take it. Just 2 days a month. There's a link in the description. Who don't want to feel 15 years younger and get rid of them zombie cells? War! Yes, war between Europe and Russia without America. Oh dear. Okay, so here's Scott Jennings revealing that Europe spent more money on Russian oil and gas than they sent to Ukraine collectively. So it looks like, even from that perspective, there's some complexity when it comes to the position of Europe on this conflict. Since Trump's been in office, it's looked like political and diplomatic solutions might emerge for the first time since Boris Johnson, at the behest of Biden, went to Kiev to stop Zelensky signing a peace deal with Putin. So, are we moving towards peace in spite of the vulgar or bellicose nature of the rhetoric? And indeed, are Europe even in a position to go to war against Russia economically? Does it even make sense? What is Europe's true position when it comes to that conflict? Can we rely on people like Ursula von der Leyen, or should we rely on Jeffrey Sachs, an academic and expert who's helped us to understand the true origins of this conflict and therefore be forewarned and forearmed, ironically, against escalating conflict, because who really benefits from this stuff? First of all, though, let's have a look at Scott Jennings revealing that Europe spent more money on Russian oil and gas last year than they sent to Ukraine. So whose side are they on, really?
Yeah, you mentioned the Europeans. It's interesting to me. They spend more money on Russian oil and gas last year than they sent to Ukraine collectively. That's number one. Number two, it's interesting to me that Zelensky could not see on Friday the benefit of signing the minerals deal. That in and of itself is a security guarantee. When our interests become your interests, that is a security guarantee. You're never going to get Trump to sign an agreement saying, well, we'll eventually put boots on the ground.
Scott, is not a security guarantee.
It is, because we would have guaranteed our own interests.
On top of that, most of the minerals are in territory that is being held by Russia.
But
so the mineral deal is something that is...
Are you saying that we would have entered into an economic situation and not defended it?
It's near and dear
Of course we would.
to Donald Trump's heart, but it is not a security guarantee.
I disagree.
The president is to put...
YouTube and social media Phidias invited Jeffrey Sachs to the EU, where he's a member of the European Parliament, using his social media following to get himself elected into a position of political power, becoming friends with Elon Musk along the way and exposing the machinations and machinery behind giant bureaucracies like the EU, who you can't trust and rely on. Now, it was the EU who, from a position of pomposity, claimed that they would never negotiate with Russia. It was NATO that said, oh, that Putin, he's got what's coming to him. In a sense, I'm saying it's these giant and unelected bureaucracies, although I recognise that on some level the EU has democratically elected members, although many of them are extremely unpopular, and as a conglomerate they don't seem to be working out that well, are far more out of touch than a populist nationalist leader like Donald Trump. And it's the failure of globalism, and along with it the left, that has led to the rise of populism. That's a bigger conversation. Let's focus on Jeffrey Sachs explaining to Phidias that Europe didn't even want to negotiate with Russia until Trump did it. So while they're claiming to be the adults in the room, they're actually copycats. No.
Trump doesn't even recognize Europe. Why should they be at the negotiating table? Partly because Europe should have been negotiating, but it said, no, we will never negotiate until this moment.
But today I heard, we weren't invited. Well, you've been there for 3 years.
Now the Europeans and Zelensky are saying, oh my God.
So we shouldn't follow what the US was doing as Europeans? This is basically what you are saying?
Of course, Europe should have a foreign policy, but they thought naively they could follow Biden. And I did tell them, repeatedly, you don't let the United States blow up the pipeline that provides the energy for Europe and then sit there like a dumb idiot. We don't know who did it. Well, I can show you the president of the United States saying, if Russia invades, Nord Stream will be finished.
There will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
Is that a clue? This is not foreign policy. This is doing what the United States wants, but now you obviously can't just follow Trump.
It's crazy to me a lot, like out of the 720 members of the European Parliament, which one of them, majority, they vote to continue this war, to keep sending weapons.
Now, strangely, if you ask of all the countries who ignores the UN the most, I'm sure every member of parliament would say, oh, Russia. But you know what? Let me mention a secret to the members of parliament. The United States is the country that ignores the UN completely. It's not even close. The United States have been engaged in 100 regime change operations since the end of World War II. 100. Russia just saw the U.S. pushing further, putting its missile systems, putting NATO enlargement, leaving the Intermediate Nuclear Force Agreement, leaving the ABM agreement. Europe wouldn't acknowledge any of those provocations because the only word you could use in Europe is unprovoked. Well, to my mind, frankly, you would say, okay, we understand you had reasons for all of this and many of them legitimate. We have our fears. Now, how do we work this out? Because whatever happens, we're sharing this continent together.
That conversation between Phidias and Jeffrey Sachs shows you everything you need to know about an optimistic new politics that might yet emerge. Sure, Trump is of a particular hue, but he's forming alliances that are exciting and new. And with figures like Phidias, who are political and media operators, facilitating experts like Sachs, informing us of the complex truths of the Ukraine-Russia conflict and Europe's dishonest and hypocritical position, it's possible that we could continue to develop more complex perspectives together, that what may yet grow out of MAGA might be something that even people that loathe Trump see as being relevant to them and their lives and born of values and virtues that are meaningful, even for the kind of diverse minorities that they claim that Trump is a dreadful threat to. Do you see that something brilliant could emerge right now? It's possible that we could oppose the type of hypocrisy and corruption that the Occupy movement was opposed to, that anyone that cares about community sovereignty, national sovereignty and individual sovereignty should be concerned with. Thank God for a figure like Phidias, thank God for Jeffrey Sachs, and Lord alone protect us from the likes of Ursula von der Leyen, who's suggesting that we should create a European army. They are still advocating for globalism, more globalism, all the time telling you that the megalomaniacal tyrant that you should fear is Donald Trump. It doesn't make sense. You can't loathe Elon Musk because he's got too much power and then say that the EU should be able to arm itself, particularly when Ursula von der Leyen during the pandemic period behaved like a plutocrat, was dishonest and advanced the idea that we should get vaccinated without knowing what exactly was going into our arms. If you took it, I never took it. She can't claim to be a friend of democracy. Here she is claiming that in order to be a friend of democracy, in order to bring about peace, we have to have war, that Europe will be stepping up its defense expenditure and rearming itself.
We had a very good and frank discussion. We've discussed everything that is around peace and strength. And of course, security guarantees are of utmost importance for Ukraine, but we need comprehensive security guarantees. This includes that we have to put Ukraine in a position of strength, that it has the means to fortify and protect itself from the economic survival to the military resilience. It's basically turning Ukraine into a steel porcupine that is indigestible for potential invaders. And therefore the focus is not only on the military supply, but also, for example, securing the energy system and making sure that over time this is a strong and resilient country. The second element I brought to the table is that we urgently have to rearm Europe. And for that I will present a comprehensive plan how to rearm Europe on the 6th of March. When we have our European Council to the leaders.
At what level of spending should individual countries make to defence?
One thing is very sure, we have to have a surge in defence. We really have to step up massive, the defense expenditure. And for that, we need a clear, big plan from the European Union for the member states and, of course, for common European domains, like, for example, advanced air shields. We need a common European approach, but also the member states need more fiscal space to do a surge in defense.
Have you won the argument with European colleagues about stepping up to the plate in terms of money?
Absolutely. We all have understood that after a long time of underinvestment, it is now of utmost importance to step up the defense investment for a prolonged period of time. It's for the security of the European Union, and we need, in the geostrategic environment in which we live, to prepare for the worst, and therefore stepping up the defenses.
What message would you like to take to America? What message would you like to give to America after today's meeting?
We are ready, together with you, to defend democracy, to defend the principle that there is a rule of law, that you cannot invade your neighbor and bully your neighbor, or you cannot change borders with force. And it's in our common interest to prevent future wars, that we make very clear that these rules count, and that democracy, that together the democracies are standing up for that. The possibility is, of course, that we have the wider Europe approach. So today we had the Norwegians, the Turks. Of course, we were hosted here by the UK. Canada was also there. So the wider concept of Europe stepping up.
And what does that mean in terms of numbers of soldiers on the ground? How many European soldiers on the ground?
United States, we stand up for the common interest. Thank you.
So, if you believe in peace, it's time, I would say, to start supporting populist candidates in your country wherever you can. Disrupt their machinery. Remember, it's the EU that went into Romania to reverse their elections. It's the EU that said they'd do the same thing in Germany if it were necessary. You cannot trust the globalists. You must not trust the globalists. It's a new form of imperialism that you have to oppose. Even if you don't agree with every aspect of nationalism, you must recognise that it's better than globalism. But that's just what I think. Why don't you let me know what you think in the comments and the chat. Remember, join us on Rumble Premium. We've got a fantastic lineup over here on Rumble, and by supporting us directly, you get ad-free content. In a minute, I'm going to be talking to the founder of Hallow, Alex Jones. No, not that one. About Christianity, business, faith, and tech, as well as telling my own lovely story from Mar-a-Lago. We'll be doing that in a moment. Let me know in the comments and chat what you think about the stories of today, whether you're watching in Locals or Rumble Premium or wherever you're watching. But before that, here's a quick message from one of our partners. We are now in Lent, the 40-day period leading up to Good Friday and Easter, filled with prayer, fasting, almsgiving, so that you can join right now. It's not too late. 40 days is a long time, but it's a great time to grow in faith and relationship with God. The challenge is called The Way, and it will help us focus on how Jesus is the way to heaven. As he shows us, the way includes sacrifice, which is difficult, but it leads to peace, joy, healing, love, and eternal life. Mark Wahlberg will be putting us to the test, helping us surrender and sacrifice. Who needs that? Mark Wahlberg getting you up at 4 a.m., dragging you into a cryo chamber, and then telling you he's resurrected on the way out. Oh, Mark. Jonathan Rumi and Sister Miriam James will lead you through powerful stories and prayer. Father Mike Schmitz will take us deep into the gospel with excellent Sunday homilies. And you'll get to hear some incredible true stories of faith. It's already shaping up to be their biggest Lent ever, with thousands of people praying together all over the world. You can get 3 months free when you sign up at hallow.com/brand so that you can do the whole challenge for free. And when you join, check out tons of great guided prayers, meditations, music, and so much more, all to help you grow closer to God and find peace. I love the app and can't recommend it enough. Download the Hallow app and jump into the Lent Pray 40 challenge today. Join me this Lent. Put down something you're addicted to and pick up the Hallow app. Use the link in the description to get a discount. Time now for my conversation with Alex Jones. He's CEO of Hallow, the app that sponsors our show and also really has helped me on my journey through Lent. What have you given up? What have you given up? I won't give up my hat, and I won't give up that. Stay with us for the conversation with Alex Jones. Welcome to Stay Free with Russell Brand. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me.
You must be one of those people that has to continually align your... like I do, your faith with your business and continually live in the question of how do I do this ethically? How do I ensure that this is bringing about his kingdom? And how do I because if you are able to do this, please tell me how to do it, because it's the thing I struggle with most. Well, not the thing, but one of the things I struggle with most. How do you ensure that your work with Hallow, which must be personally enriching and empowering, remains within your... I mean, I can tell within 5 seconds, although I've seen you on other people's podcasts and stuff, that how serious you are about your faith and about how serious you are about your devotion to Christ. How do you ensure that we don't get pulled into serving the very kingdom we're meant to be fighting against?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the battle of a lifetime. It's trying to die to yourself and die to all your vanities and all the things of the world that you, at least I, before Christ, kept wanting to chase after. So, I mean, I think it's, I'm very much just at the beginning, but of this journey and this battle, which I think is a lifetime one. I think, working on something relating to your faith, it has a lot of pros and cons. There's, and God has given me a great gift in being able to do this. I think, on the cons, it can certainly feel like, it used to be easier to separate, which maybe isn't even a good thing, but it used to be easier to separate kind of your work from like what you're doing morally or your spiritual life. And now for me, obviously, there's no separation. It's also quite hard for me to like, I use the app every day. I love it. It's been, it's helped me a ton. We built it initially just for me and my journey to try to grow deeper in a relationship with the Lord. But it's quite hard for me to like listen to an audio session or something or a prayer with, Father Mike or Jeff Caven's daily reflection or something, and not hear like a little audio blip and be like, oh man, team, like we need to make this higher quality. And so your work kind of conflating with faith can certainly be difficult. But for me, that the coolest part has been, and I've heard you talk about this before too, but has been learning to surrender. And really that is the only thing I've learned through all of Hallow and all of my own spiritual life, is just learning in everything to surrender. And with Hallow, he just makes it so tactical and so obvious. Like there was this our first real fundraise that we did, which is, it was certainly the primary time that we needed money. I was, building this off my credit card, and we had drained our 401ks, and we had this great team who was working really hard, but we were certainly running out of money. And we did this fundraise, and I remember I pitched a ton of people, like 80 people over the course of 2 weeks. And they essentially all said no, like and the no's came really quick. I got like 75 no's in the course of 2 weeks. And mostly just like, hey, you're not the right person to build this. This isn't a good idea. Nobody's going to pray. This spirituality thing is dead. It's all about kind of mindfulness and secular spirituality and all this stuff. And I remember I just came back to my little studio apartment, and I was just like beset with this heaviness and this weight and this stress. And I had like knots in my back. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. And I sat down and I prayed, and I was like, God, look, I don't know how to do this. I think you chose the wrong guy for this. I am clearly not the right guy. All these people are saying that I'm the wrong guy. And, I don't know if this idea is going to work, all these things. And the only thing I know what to do is to make a deal with you. And I said, God, if you want this thing to work, you'll make it work. And I promise you will always get the credit. I'm never going to trick myself into thinking I'm some successful person who figured this out, or entrepreneur or evangelist or whatever it is. I know you're the one doing it. I'm always going to give you the credit. At the same time, my deal with you is if it doesn't work, that's not on me, that's on you. Like you are going to be the one to take the weight of that. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to do the best that I can, but it's your thing. And if you want it to, humble me or teach me some lesson or reach out to somebody and inspire somebody else to do something, fine. It's your thing. And it was just this like weight immediately came off of my shoulders. And the next day we got an offer to fund the whole thing. And then we got like 3 or 4 more the following. But it was just this beautiful example. And I can tell maybe 10 stories of that. But every time at Hallow that something successful has happened, either from the world's perspective or from God's or the mission perspective, it has always been God, us, the same pattern of us like trying to cling to something really tightly and then letting go and saying, God, look, if you want this to happen, it's going to happen. And then he does these incredible things with it. So it's, for us, it's just getting to watch what happens when we surrender and let God work.
It's very similar to a lot of conversations I've had about people like this. It seems quite a common theme that they surrender and allowing Christ to carry for you something that otherwise might become tethered to self. Like, even Jonathan Rumi, who I know is on, is my friend who's on your app a bunch. Like his story about just before getting cast in The Chosen is really similar to your story. And I'm wondering about everything I'm doing at the moment, because I'm at that very pivotal point, Alex, where I'm moving, I don't know how many transitions you've had across your life. I guess everyone's life must seem episodic from the inside. But came to faith on the 28th of April there. And now, not only do I have questions about entertainment as an industry and the function and purpose of entertainment. And of course, I'm aware of the many analogies that exist that describe things as tools, and a tool can be used for good or bad. And it tends to be where these conversations sort of go. But in practice and in purpose, scalpels do tend to be used to conduct surgery, whereas daggers tend to get used to plunge into human bodies. And what I feel like is that I've moved away from entertainment. It wasn't like even a deliberate choice. It's not like I've turned my back on Hollywood because I realized how corrupt it was. There were so many factors, including it not being as smooth a ride as I thought it would be. If people had kept offering me a bunch of money to be in a bunch of movies, I might have kept saying a bunch of yeses, but that's not how it went. And now, even in the world I'm in, where it's you might call it alternative news or independent media, I similarly feel like I feel that such important work's been done in telling the truth in this kind of space, by loads of people. I just think that whether it's the way that coronavirus was handled, or whether the Ukraine-Russia conflict is playing out, two of the most obvious issues. Centralized systems of power that I do not think are separate from evil, Alex. I do not consider them to be separate from evil. I consider them to be a clear expression of evil, are now challenged. But myself now, mate, I feel like, I want to be more closely alloyed to Jesus. And I know that a lot of new converted people feel that. But I don't know. It happened organically. I just was like, when I was before getting baptized, I was just like, look, I'm reading these things, I'm having these conversations about Christ. Right now, I'm baptized, and I was just talking about it, and then that just started to be the stuff that people were watching and asking me about. And there's a revival happening, isn't there? And I talked to Dallas Jenkins of The Chosen about it. I've spoken to a lot of people about it, and you seem like another person I should ask. Do you feel like there's a revival taking place? And if there is a revival taking place, ought those of us that believe in this thing be acting like the early Christians and, devoting ourselves in a very, very sincere and absolute way?
Yeah, I mean,